missing in action.
Una maana kwamba alipoumia kwa kampuni yako hukujua ameumia?
Angekuja waniripotie. Ulikuja kwa niambia?
Niliumia, yeye ndiye alisema alitisha ambulance nikapeleka hospitali.
Huyu.
Nani?
Wewe. Unasikia vile anaongea?
Bismillah. Mbona wewe danganye? Mbona mimi amwambia wewe maneno ya bana yangu? Waacha mrongo yako bana.
So, you are nothing, si ndio?
Yes, you are nothing. he called the Kuls and Kamal and Singira us.
Ni sawa mzee, nishasikia nishaelewa.
So then the Kuls wanted to kill us.
Nimesikia. Wewe.
Are we together mpaka there?
Welcome to the program. It is a beautiful Wednesday morning. How are you doing? This is Good Morning Kenya. Now, as much as we're saying it's a beautiful morning, the roads are a mess. You know, there are fallen trees. Like, it's just a mess on the roads, and we'll keep saying this. Take care of yourselves on the road. Just watch out for yourselves on the road, and don't be too quick to pass at a point where you can see clearly that it is a flooded area. Just avoid them completely. Today on Good Morning Kenya, we have a lot in store for you. Of course, we'll be letting you know what is on the front pages and the entire pages of the papers that we are having today. We have the Daily Nation, we have the Star, and we have the Standard, and we'll be letting you know what is happening there. Of course, the news, and one of the interviews that we'll have today is on what really is the Kenyan workers in Saudi situation. This is a conversation that we've had for the longest time, people saying that Saudi is not the safest place to work, but we will be getting into that later on the show, and I'll be joined by Faith Murunga and Stephanie Marigo to talk about that particular conversation. Mike, good morning.
Good morning to you, Vivian, and to the viewer. Thank you for tuning in to Good Morning Kenya. Welcome. This is the best way to start your morning. And as Vivian has alluded to, there's a lot of rains that have pounded the country. And especially in some parts of Nairobi, trees have fallen down, roads are blocked. So it's going to be quite a morning. A busy morning, especially for motorists. What we urge you to do is to be safe and to ensure you follow the traffic rules, and where necessary, please exercise caution when it comes to flooding, because we do not want to add more to the tragedies that are happening owing to the heavy downpour that we are experiencing. All right, later on in the program, we shall be talking about the 20 years of the National Government Constituency Development Fund since its inception in 2003. What have been the achievements? What are the challenges? Those are some of the things we are going to be looking at. And in studio, I'll be joined by one Abdiaziz Buleyaru, who is the board director of NGCDF, and also George Ole Meshuko, who is also a board director of NGCDF. So you want to tune in to that conversation. Remember, you can be part of that conversation by reaching to us through our social media platforms. We are at KBC Channel 1 on all our social media platforms, and also our website is at www.kbc.co.ke. Welcome to the program. Ray, good morning.
Good morning to you, and Vivian too. I think we need to start the slogan, marking yourself safe every day. I think every morning, every evening, given the turn of events that we are currently experiencing. And this is just one of advice. If you're using Thika Road, either headed towards Thika from CBD and its environs, headed to Thika, you might want to just stake out stay indoors until the road clears, because right now there's a huge traffic snarl up. The road is actually flooded. I don't think would have ever had to say that Thika Road is flooded. We did not expect that the Thika Road superhighway would actually would have to experience this, those who use Thika Road. So if you're using Thika Road superhighway this morning, be advised that it is blocked at various points such as Githurai, Kenyatta University, KU, as well as Kahawa Sukari due to flooding. Kindly use alternative routes. And also we have an update from Narok, where at around 2 a.m. With the rains pounding, some motorists ended up being trapped in their vehicles. We're going to be keeping tabs. We have paparazzis and reporters spread across the country, and we're going to be doing a spot check on KBC Channel 1 on how Kenyans are doing in light of the increased downpour. Determined government has asked those who are in flood-prone areas, identifying 26 counties, to find higher grounds. Question is, have the counties or the national government made provisions for those who have to move? We'll be keeping tabs on that in our subsequent bulletin. We are also going to be looking at what is happening at Uhuru Gardens there, where the Connected Summit is currently underway, the outcomes of that, and also keeping tabs on what is happening in as far as matters health is concerned. Good morning once again. Our website is also very much open to your perusal, www.kbc.co.ke. Now let's bring you up to speed with what Cabinet decided. Is that Cabinet has been given the green light for a review of the terms and conditions of service for CEOs, board members, staff of state corporations and university leadership. Now, this sets the stage for the Salaries and Remuneration Commission and State Corporations Advisory Committee to review the salary bands and terms of service. Further, Cabinet is adamant that it was unsustainable to continue paying intern doctors 206,000 shillings, setting the cap at 70,000 shillings. Abdiaziz Hashim with the details.
In what could result in a major shake-up in the management and operation of state corporations and universities in the country, the Cabinet on Tuesday okayed for the Salaries and Remuneration Commission to implement changes to salary bands and allowances for CEOs, board members, vice-chancellors, chancellors and members of university councils. The revised guidelines also provide for a new standard for governance and ethical behavior of board members and staff of state corporation. On the ongoing industrial strife by healthcare workers, the Cabinet approved payment of 70,000 Kenya shillings to intern doctors, saying other interns in the public service were being paid 25,000 shillings. This as they maintained the 206,000 shillings demanded for intern doctors was unsustainable. The subsidized fertilizer issue also featured during the meeting, where it was noted 42 counties had received the fertilizer, with the uptake being recorded at 100%. So far, 2.9 million bags have been distributed to 538,061 farmers compared to 1.09 million bags to 270,000 farmers in April last year. Farmers registered on the fertilizer online portal have hit 5.9 million compared to the 2.3 million last year. On suppliers of a substandard fertilizer, the President directed firm action against anyone who tampers with the important national program. Members of the Cabinet also approved the terms of a negotiated settlement of the commercial contracts and financing agreement for Itare and Aror dams. In the new terms, Itare Dam will be completed while the construction of Aror Dam will begin. The Cabinet also approved the purchase of 6 parcels of land totaling 11,000 acres of land in Naivasha, including 6,000 acres for settling squatters and 5,000 acres for industrial purposes.
The government has also announced a 50% reduction in power tariffs at night time as an incentive for the manufacturing companies to boost their production capacities. President William Ruto says the move is aimed at making Kenya attractive as a top investment destination.
Tuesday in Machakos County, President William Ruto officiated the launch of the Next Gen Packaging Kenya Export Processing Zone in Athi River. It is here that he announced the cost of power remains investor and manufacturer friendly.
The first step we have agreed with industry is that those who will produce at night because we have excess power at night, we are going to reduce the tariff by 50%.
The head of state noted that the Next Gen Packaging Kenya EPZ Limited was the latest entrant to the EPZ, therefore presenting opportunities for significant investment in the textile and apparel subsector. Ruto further disclosed the government has increased acreage under cotton from 44,000 acres last year to 104,000 acres this year as part of efforts to increase local fabric manufacturing.
For the many of you who have told me that there is opportunity in the fabric space, because a lot of fabric that is currently being used in our EPZ comes from imports.
Additionally, he announced a partnership between Kenya and the United States, facilitated by USAID, with over $11 million aimed at job creation, boosting trade, and fortifying the textile and apparel subsector.
Potential of investments and partnership in this subsector has greatly increased formal sector employment opportunities for women and youth, with the sector poised to create up to 1 million jobs over the next decade. This inclusive impact will be transformative.
He further called on industrialists to take advantage of the country's green energy grid system, highly skilled labor, as well as other incentives available to grow their businesses.
The EPZ program has also made substantial progress in expanding the country's portfolio of productive capital investment, thus laying a strong foundation for job creation, technology and skills transfer, as well as diversification and value addition of exports, together with the creation of backward linkages within the domestic economy.
In my ministry, we want to assure all the investors and all the industrialists that we are committed to creating a good climate and a business environment that will attract more investments.
On water challenges in Athi River, Ruto said his administration will complete the Northern Corridor Water Project to end the challenge not only at the EPZ, but the entire Athi River sub-county.
Now, industries that do not work 24 hours will have an incentive to actually work 24 hours. That means maybe we're going to have more uptake of, those who are seeking jobs in the industries. But we'll wait to see if this is going to have a ripple effect on the cost of production. On to matters health is the Doctors Union, KMPDU, are unmoved, saying the implementation of their CBA and payment of intern doctors is non-negotiable. This happens while counties are mulling over the potential of sacking all the striking doctors.
Madam Chair.
For the second day running, hopes of ending the 40 days doctors' strike hit a snag Tuesday, with the government and counties accusing striking doctors of refusing to call off their strike. Head of Public Service Felix Koskei says the Doctors Union KMPDU backtracked on an earlier agreement to sign a return-to-work formula with the government.
Solidarity forever.
The union backtracked on the return-to-work formula that had been mutually settled on after a series of 6 marathon meetings. The union's new demand is an all-or-nothing out-of-court settlement.
Health Cabinet Secretary Susan Nakumicha disclosing that the government had set aside 6.1 billion shillings to meet doctors' demands, including payment of allowances.
Follow up to the doctors' refusal to call off the strike, we have instructed our council to immediately move to court and file the status report as to what we had agreed to and initialed on as a return-to-work formula.
While refuting claims of reducing intern doctors' payment from 200,000 shillings, the Council of Governors had threatened to fire striking doctors and ensure immediate resumption of services in public hospitals.
Ni lazima sasa tufike mahali tuseme wananchi wameteseka ya kutosha, na tuwezi endelea kuzunguka kwa kiwanja na hakuna lolote ambalo wamesema wanataka hatujawapatia.
I cannot continue working for free for a union which is not respecting court orders. So I've instructed my payroll people not to remit the dues for this particular union.
In a rejoinder, KMPDU officials scoffed at what they termed government's empty threats aimed at twisting them to sign an unfavorable deal.
Tell us you're going to post doctor interns today and we'll pay them in July. We'll go back to work. But you tell us no, we'll pay them, we'll subject them to exploitation and to slavery. We'll say no.
Hawezi kuwa anatoka safari zao ng'ambo, wanatuita usiku na kutushurutisha kwamba tutie sahihi katika mikataba ambayo lazima tuwajulishe members wetu kwamba hizi ndio vipengele ambavyo serikali imetwekea mezani.
The doctors have vowed to remain on strike until their CBA is fully implemented.
Now, in another turn of events in regard to where we are in as far as matters of striking doctors are concerned, the Council of Governors now maintains that if the 47 county executives were to meet the doctors' 2017 collective bargaining agreement, well, then that is all pegged on the division of revenue to be increased from 385 to 450 billion shillings. While appearing before the Senate Finance and Budget Committee, the Council of Governors, led by their chair, Anne Waiguru, said it will require 5.8 billion shillings to sustain the health workers in the devolved units and meet their collective bargaining agreement every year. Our reporter Abdiaziz Hashim with the details.
County Vice Chair, Council of Governors.
In anticipation of the high costs they are likely to face in the 2024-2025 financial year, governors came armed with 450 billion shillings budget proposal before the Senate Finance and Budget Committee.
If we are not able, for example, to pay the doctors, I'm sure you have seen the suffering of our Kenyans out there. It's not harming the leaders, it's harming the Kenyan people. And it's only fair that we request that you call a sitting on this issue and push for the revenue that has been allocated to the counties to be increased. You know the counties asked for 450 billion.
The Council of Governors now say the proposal was informed by the fact that they will require an additional 5.8 billion shillings to meet the health workers' demands every year.
You are aware that from the next financial year, the cost of maintenance and servicing of those medical equipment services of around 5.85 billion Kenya shillings is going to be borne directly by the counties.
We are to sustain the new basic that the doctors are asking for. Counties will require as much as 7 billion shillings every single year to just sustain that.
And when you add now the CBA, we don't even know whether we are going to be able to buy medicine. It is that serious.
If we do not get an increase in the equitable share of 5.8 billion that is ring-fenced for paying that salary increase, then we shall be lying to them. We'll just be cheating them to go back to work, and there will be nothing.
The governors argue that there are currently 4,398 doctors and 31,923 nurses in health facilities. Further, an additional resource will be required to cater for health facilities that have increased from 10,032 in 2016 to 16,655 facilities.
The CBA has been signed with the doctors. The impact is 5.8 billion shilling annually. County government must pay. There is no two way around it. If you don't get the money, then the doctors will remain on the street.
Now, an update that 6 bodies were retrieved from Lake Baringo, bringing to 7 the total number of fatalities following a boat accident 2 days ago. This comes as 2 people perished in Maua Meru following heavy rains. The duo are reported to have drowned. Jalo Picho with the details.
A multi-agency task force comprising of Coast Guards, Marine Police and Kenya Red Cross, who have been combing Lake Baringo waters following Sunday's boat tragedy, managed to retrieve the 6 missing bodies on Tuesday morning. Confirming the incident, Baringo County Commissioner Stephen Kutwa says that the missing bodies were retrieved at the shores of Lake Kokwa. Incidentally, the bodies were retrieved on the shores of the island they were traveling to for a church event.
Our divers and our marine officers were able to trace the bodies around Kokwa Island. and the bodies have been successfully brought to the mainland and moved to Kabarnet mortuary.
Si rahisi kupata mwili 6 safari moja. Mara nyingi tukiwa na shida kwa hii bahari inachukua muda kupatikana watu kwa sababu ya upepo inapeleka watu, na hii mwili 6 tumepata asubuhi.
The ill-fated vessel was carrying 23 high school and grade 8 students and was en route to Kokwa Island for a church service before the tragic accident happened.
We want to say pole to the families. We have taken some of the family members to go and identify the bodies and then be given psychosocial support.
I'd like to call upon the beach management unit and the people, the boat owners association, to enforce the regulations and laws to be carrying the right number of people on their boats.
In Meru County, 2 people have lost their lives in Maua town after they tragically drowned in floods following the ongoing heavy downpour.
Tulikuwa kung'ang'ana kutafuta hiyo mwili, tuliambiwa tukang'ang'ana, tumekosa mara ya kwanza. So sasa tukiwa tumekaa hapa, raia wakakuja na mtu yao akiwa anasema anajua kuogelea. Sasa ndio nimejaribu kumfuata, pia yeye amepotea kwa maji.
Elsewhere, the government has promised to put measures in place to curb the ongoing floods that has affected residents residing in Budalangi, Busia County.
Kwa hivyo muda usio mrefu tutaona kwamba tumetatua hiyo sehemu ndogo ambayo dikes zilikuwa hazijawekwa.
The government urgently requires 24 billion shillings to bridge the financial gap in the war against malaria. According to Public Health Principal Secretary Mary Muthoni, they are engaging development partners to meet the budgetary requirements to attain its goal to distribute 15 million insecticide-treated nets to over 27 million residents of 22 counties by the end of June 2025.
The 6th forum of the partnership.
Now, before we take you to the courts, is that Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition has termed the subsidized fertilizer scandal as economic sabotage, demanding that the government cracks the whip on the masterminds and profiteers of the scam. Keep watching, we have further details. But now let's take you to the courts where 2 young men who were captured on camera hanging dangerously on a moving motor vehicle along Mombasa Road have pleaded guilty to the offence before Amilimani's magistrate court. Senior Principal Magistrate Martha Nanzushi has directed the probation officer to avail a pre-sentencing report on the 29th of April that should capture the mental status of the duo during the incident.
This is the video that landed this duo in court. Fun taking a little too far aboard a speeding Mercedes-Benz along Mombasa Road over the weekend. According to the prosecuting counsel on 20th April 2024, Peter Igadwa and Peleg Mosongo, being passengers of the Mercedes-Benz, registration number KCX 959B, were riding dangerously by sitting on the doors of the fast-moving car.
Ulikuwa unaning'inia kwenye mlango, umekaa kwenye mlango wa gari nambari KCX 959. Ulikuwa umeabiri gari hiyo sehemu hatari, ulikuwa umekaa kwenye mlango wa gari.
During mitigation, 23-year-old Igado asked the court to be lenient, saying he was excited to ride on the luxurious car for the first time. Trial Magistrate Martha Nanzushi said the duo must be conscious of the law and consequences of their actions.
At 23 years old, you do not know sitting on a window of a fast-moving vehicle is dangerous? The probation officer will sit with you. Let us go through your thought process at that time and see if we can be able to help you. Fine is not going to help you at this point in time. Let's come back on the 29th day of April.
The court has directed the probation officer to avail a pre-sentencing report on 29th April when she will give her judgment. The driver of the vehicle is still at large. They say ignorance of the law is no defense. The duo merrymaking has landed them on the wrong side of the traffic act. Ruth Wamboy reporting from Milimani Law Courts.
That is what you call living dangerously at a time when we are doing citizen journalism. If that video had not been taken by another motorist, then maybe, just maybe, those two young men would not have found them behind the docks. Now we take a quick breather, but when we come back, we're going to be talking about that team that did that thing. Tuseme boda boda ilikata jana. Aya, let's take a break.
几乎是吧？
几乎
反而变成了美丽的外表。它所包容的微观和包容它的宏观，可能更加混乱。
就现在你和我也想明白。
Try not to make it me, can't make never lost my way. Never see the icon get confused. People come to Jamaica and not know how we live things. Say everything nice too, it full of vibes and things. Them same one feel it to them heart when them get few understand the real thing. Yeah, the day at town one day, I fought with a white man we come all the way from Norway. I'm sorry.
Pour some cold water on it.
Life can be very busy, but everyone deserves a laugh. We inject humor in your week's activities with episodes of Classmates.
You need to see this.
Camaraderie, mischief, and everything in between. To keep you smiling all week long.
I have a few minutes of boredom, so why not?
Tune in to KBC Channel 1 every Monday to Friday at 6:30 p.m. for a daily dose of comedy.
Being the 24th of April 2024, this is in the headlines. Now let's bring you up to speed with stories that have been making headlines in the business circles, where Broadcasting and Telecommunications Principal Secretary Professor Edward Kisiangani says exchange of ideas and knowledge sharing are key for Africa to strike homegrown solutions to address the unique challenges in Africa, such as food security, youth unemployment, and environmental issues.
Fostering collaboration and connectivity among African countries has the potential to provide local solutions to pollution, energy and food insecurity, crime, youth unemployment, environmental and climate change challenges.
How can our connectivity help us to deal with the environmental crisis that we find ourselves in? Are we able to check who is dumping nuclear waste on our coastline?
Professor Kisiangani underscored the importance of knowledge sharing and embracing emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence and Internet of Things to solve Africa's problems.
Isn't it possible that as we establish these connections, we can share knowledge and information about how best we can deal with pollution?
Engineer Tanui said governments must navigate the complexities of harmonized AI policies and regulations with foresight and agility, striking a balance between fostering innovation and safeguarding the rights and dignity of citizens.
Our AI future holds in immense promise, from revolutionizing healthcare, education, agricultural productivity, environmental sustainability, and even more. Yet to fully unlock its potential, we must bridge the gap between social impact and policy relevance.
They called for the safeguarding of those online from cybersecurity risks.
The summit is still underway. Now, the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya is set to make public the names of rogue accountants linked to accounting malpractices. ISPAC National Chairperson Philip Kakai has warned that the accounting body will deregister any of its members found culpable of accounting malpractice as part of its disciplinary action.
Suspension and deregistration of errant members are some of the disciplinary measures that the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya has been employing over the years.
The ultimate, if you are found culpable, is you are suspended from membership, and that puts you in another perspective where you are not able to get to serve the public.
However, the recent county audit reports by the Auditor General's Office have elicited debate on the role that accountants play in ensuring proper use of public coffers.
As we review the Accountants Act, we are saying, look, have the accountant who is registered in good standing. Because some of those people you are mentioning in Senate, you'll find that they are accountants who are not even in good standing here. They only picked a number and it disappeared.
ISPAC plans to publish a report next month that will list rogue members.
At the end of the month of May, we will now get into deeper. It will be a longer statement if it has to be a statement. It will be a booklet indicating all the steps, indicating who. And if he's our member, we shall say, this is our member. If he's not, we shall also mention there.
ISPAC is calling for the establishment of a national whistleblower policy, enactment of a whistleblower act, and setting up of financial reporting units to strengthen ethical conduct.
Now, this comes amid questions on how devolved units, including Nairobi County and Mandera County, have been spending public coffers. We'll be waiting for the end of May for that particular report from the accounting body. Now, those in the e-mobility value chain are calling for first tracking of policies as well as creation of a conducive environment for the uptake of electric vehicles. Energy Principal Secretary Alex Wachira says among government incentives is an electricity tariff as low as 8 shillings per unit for electric vehicle charging stations.
We are going to increase our uptake of our
energy, electricity, more so at night, because these buses and these vehicles will be charging mostly at night, and thereby helping us increase the uptake of power, because we have a low uptake of power during the night.
We have to use it up, and so if you don't use it up, you have to do what they call vending, which is wasting basically. So by introducing preferential tariff to be used in the middle of the night, this means that we are able to match the demand.
The most important element for us to be able to compete within this sector, and something we believe for Kenya's future, is that the modern electric vehicles we're delivering into this market need to be assembled here.
If the government reduces the taxes and it reduces policies to incentivize people to bring in more EVs, then it makes a lot of sense, because again, going back, you'll now need to set up the charging infrastructure because the cars will not be affordable.
Well, so yesterday at around 10, Arsenal was squaring it out with Chelsea. As you said, team ya mafundi, boda boda riders. Well, let's say the boda boda did not work this time. And that's why the Arsenal scored 3-0 to Chelsea. Our producers here, at least 2 of them, are not in the best of their moods this morning because they lost. We wish that Victor was here to have a conversation and banter about this. But unfortunately, like a majority of Kenyans this morning who are making their way to the Central Business District, the roads are flooded. There's some debris, blocking some of the major roads leading to the Central Business District. We just want to remind you that to remain safe. At around 5:30 to 6 a.m. this morning, if you're applying Thika Road, you are advised to get an alternative route to make your way to the Central Business District, because various areas along the superhighway have been blocked off to allow, the water to just flow through and maybe ease up. That is at the area around Kahawa, Sukari, Kenyatta University and Githurai. We just remind you to remain safe. Now, let's look at other stories that are making headlines in the sporting arena. Is that matters volleyball there. We have quite the update, and we also invite you to have a look at what is happening on our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke. We'll not be able to take that story, but it is already on our website, so we invite your perusal on that particular platform. I'm Regina Manyara. You're watching In the Headlines, and I leave in the able hands of my colleagues Mike and Vivian for the rest of the programming.
Someone please pour some cold water on me.
Life can be very busy, but everyone deserves a laugh. We inject humor in your week's activities with episodes of Classmates.
You need to see this.
Camaraderie, mischief, and everything in between, to keep you smiling all week long.
I have a few minutes of boredom, so why not?
Tune in to KBC Channel 1 every Monday to Friday at 6:30 p.m. for a daily dose of comedy.
So welcome to you in Cannes of the Futsal Africa Cup of Nations.
This much moment, a good break, gonna score!
And it's a goal for Mozambique.
On KBC Channel 1, we are a TV station like no other. Get a taste of the best in entertainment.
Yes, indeed.
Feel the passion.
Will you promise me?
I swear that you will never lose me. I can't get married to you.
I'm sure you knew about it. That's why you're making fun of me.
Experience the drama.
Get out.
Who is the man in this one?
And the laughter.
Hii wigi umevakishwa. Sile wakati tulikuwa tunaapishwa tunapewa mheshimiwa.
Move to the beat.
We are live from Broadcasting House.
And get informed on the latest happenings. KBC Channel 1.
Wow. Yeah.
We are the full package.
Oh, yes.
And Kenya's watching.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Are you a talented artist? Or are you passionate about a topic you want to discuss? But money can be very hard to find for an upcoming artist. Don't worry, Studio Mashinani has got your back. Sign up on ajira.co.ke to book a session with your music and video producers across the country. Work on your music, jingles, spoken words, and even podcasts to realize your dream. All for free. Studio Mashinani, Radani Talent.
Welcome back to The Viewpoint. My name is Mike Miguel. Now we take a look at what is making headlines in today's dailies. But before I do that, let me introduce my guest in studio today. I'm joined by one Wilson Sosion. Karibu sana.
Asante.
And my next guest is Ireri Wamwadhi, who is a governance and leadership expert. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Now, let's first of all take a look at what is making headlines in these dailies. Azimio demands, that is on Daily Nation, Azimio demands Ogolla inquest. Opposition leaders yesterday upped the ante on calls for thorough investigations to unearth the cause of the tragic helicopter crash that claimed the lives of the Chief of Defense Forces, Francis Ogolla, and 9 other soldiers last week, with a fresh push to set up a public judicial inquiry. That story, you will find it on page 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation. Underwater, Kenyans in agony amid heavy floods. The rains have caused a lot of havoc, and they're saying here, they've given an example of Felix Kavi had to wade through knee-high water to reach the gate. He resides in 360-degree estate in Syokimau, Machakos County, that has been submerged in water and is among scores of families in the estate who have been affected for the last 3 days. You will find that story on page 2 and 3 of the Daily Nation, where they're saying it's raining everywhere, no place to hide. Kenyans told to brace for tougher times. That story, you will find it on the second and third page of the Daily Nation. There's another story making the first page of the Daily Nation, and this concerns Chebukati. Now, Chebukati fails to make the cut in hiring of appellate judges. Former IEBC chairman Wafula Chebukati's bid to join the judiciary as an appeal judge has hit a dead end after missing out on the Judicial Service Commission shortlist released yesterday. That story is fleshed out on page 8 of the Daily Nation. Cabinet rules out increased salaries for intern doctors. That story is found on the back page in detail of the Daily Nation. State issues ultimatum as talks with doctors collapse. Let's quickly look at what the Standard is saying. Doctors deal breaker. A disagreement over what medical interns should be paid sank a return to work formula negotiated by striking doctors and the government, with authorities saying that they have agreed on all but one of the 19 demands by the health practitioners, extending Kenya's suffering. There's another story here still concerning floods, and they're saying flooding havoc as heavy rains pound the country. Kenyans unpreparedness in the face of heavy rains has been exposed, with raging floods, waters submerging houses, cutting off roads and damaging millions of properties. You'll find that story on page 18 of the Standard newspaper. Wrote at City Hall, you are a letdown. That is UDAMP's One Sakaja. We'll be looking at that story, which is carried on page 10 of the Standard newspaper. On the front page of the Star newspaper, they are saying, fixing IEBC, experts call for a strong urgency. New bill abolishes vice chair's post and raises quorum to 5 and forces chair to consult. That story, you'll find it on page 4 and 5 of the Star newspaper. Still, another story on the front page is concerning the rains and the havoc it has caused in the country, especially in areas like Nairobi and Machakos. Kenyans stranded as rains batter country by flooding as flooding persists. That story is carried on the front page of the Star newspaper. There's another story, a mystery of 600 million pipeline sold at 7 million. You will find that story on page 8 of the Star newspaper. And also a multi-agency team combs villages for copter crash victims' valuables. That is relating to the helicopter crash that happened last week that claimed the lives of Chief of Defense Forces and also 9 other soldiers. You will find that story on page 10 of the Star newspaper. All right, concerning floods, let me now engage my guests. I'll start with you, Mr. Mwathi. Our preparedness in terms of these events, why is it always that sometimes when we have such events, especially when it comes to floods, there are always cases where lives are lost, drainage systems are not working? Where do we go wrong?
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
I think there's the issue of increased population. Mm-hmm. We should increase the development, mm-hmm. because each and every day developments are coming up. Mm-hmm. But in any case, we should be moving with how the world is moving, mm-hmm. or how our cities are moving. Mm-hmm. Or, you know, I think it's also good to know that these rains are blessings, mm-hmm. but sometimes this season, last season we were told that was El Nino, but mm-hmm. I think this one now is even more than El Nino. Yes. It is more than it was the last time. Mm-hmm. Okay, we have received more than average rainfall. Yes. So you see now the floodings are all over, mm-hmm. And I think it's an issue of, it should be an issue of joint effort. Not only the Nairobi city government, mm-hmm. the national government, the meteorological department, each and every other stakeholders would come in, mm-hmm. and at least see what we can do regarding to this. Otherwise, I know we have received more than what was expected, mm-hmm. and this is sometimes expected, but it is going beyond, mm-hmm. When it comes to the destruction the France are taking, mm-hmm. When it comes to the unexpected negative results. Mm-hmm. So maybe it's it's the high time we involve even if it goes beyond this, is the high time we involve even other outside players, mm-hmm. including the outside world, to mm-hmm. come and see what we can do for Nairobi. Otherwise, it's not something good. We should continue. Not only in Nairobi, we have seen it elsewhere. Rivers bursting their banks and floods in even most of unexpected areas, because there are areas we are usually used to hearing of floods, but this time it has gone beyond. We have heard that the dams, Kenyan dams along Tana River are also flooding. People are being warned. So we should at least look for a way of ensuring that we take good the advantage of actually these lanes, unlike them causing more harm. So it's a wake-up call to the county governments, to the national governments, and if need be, we involve even the international community, because it's now getting out of hand.
Mheshimiwa, are we adequately prepared for such event? Always when the rains happen, there are these cases of floods, lives being lost. Are we adequately prepared?
I don't think many parts of the global community have been prepared for the impact of climate change. This is a phenomenon of climate change. And the indicators of climate change is that the globe will be receiving extreme weather situations. If it is about rains, it will be accompanied by a lot of floods. And we have witnessed it. Even in places that have never received floods are receiving floods. Even we saw in Germany some times ago, and we are witnessing it all over the world. So that the rains are not just normal, they are above normal. And it's coming out with floods. And we can see here in Nairobi, even the drainage system infrastructure in Nairobi is not designed to accommodate this type of rains. And so nobody anticipated this. The other extreme bit of it is when it is dry, it's extremely dry. And we witnessed that during the drought. So that drought was indicator of weather phenomena. We began seeing cyclones here in Africa, in Madagascar and the rest. So when you look at the entire global situation, I don't think we were ready for the climate change. And therefore we should go back then and say, yes, who should compensate for these damages and who caused the climate change? The industrial nations that are emitting carbon, they've caused these disasters. So we only don't talk about trading of carbon. We should talk about other disasters that have been caused by carbon emissions to our environment. And I think I agree with my expert here. We need to, who really should be held accountable for damages that are arising from climate change, and who should take responsibility, and how should we protect lives, rather than saying simplistically, are we ready? The answer is, we are not ready. We are only facing the consequences of the same, and we are trying within our means to mitigate what we are able to do. Like Nairobi City, don't tell me today, overnight, even if there is a meeting in City Hall, there will be a solution to the current
Let's
flooding.
take a short commercial break. We'll be back with that and more. We'll take a short break. We'll be back.
Una maana kwamba alipoumia kwa kampuni yako hukujua ameumia?
Angekuja waniripotie. Ulikuja kwa niambia?
Niliumia, yeye ndiye alisema alitisha ambulance nikapeleka hospitali. Huyu.
Nani?
Wewe. Unasikia vile anaongea?
Bismillahi, mbona wewe danganyi? Mbona mimi amwambia wewe maneno ya bana yangu? Waacha mrongo yako bana.
So, you are nothing, si ndio?
Yes, you are nothing. He called the Kuls and Kamal and Singira us.
Ni sawa mzee, nishasikia nishaelewa.
So then the Kuls wanted to kill us.
Nimesikia.
And we became the
Wewe.
Are we together mpaka fair?
Kenya Broadcasting Corporation is Kenya's most trusted news and entertainment brand. Grow your business, acquire more clients, and reach new, diverse audiences by advertising with us. We connect brands to audiences that matter, driving results for brands and enhancing your current marketing strategies. We have packages for all needs, and no product is too small for us. Contact us today and capitalize on our combined power of radio, TV, and digital platforms. KBC, connecting Kenyans.
All right, this is The Viewpoint. My name is Mike Migwe, and we are talking about floods. And one question I would want to pose to you, Mheshimiwa, and also Mr. Mwathi. How do we remedy this in terms of drainage infrastructure? How do we remedy this?
The current drainage infrastructure did not envisage this heavy rains. So the capacity of the current drainage infrastructure has been pressurized maybe more than 10 times the way it was designed. And that's why you'll have to wait for some hours for water to ease off because of the low capacity of drainage system. So what it means is that the counties and the cities, because when you talk of Nairobi, it's under the Nairobi City County, and there is a whole planning department. Those engineers must come out and redesign the drainage infrastructure afresh. You remember during El Nino preparation, part of it was reorganizing and opening up drainage channels along the roads in the city. And I can tell you that has helped a lot. What I've witnessed, because I reside in an estate where this drainage program was, project was undertaken. It is better now than before. So really, there is no option. We cannot sit and wait and be helpless. We must reconfigure our drainage infrastructure to drain off all the water, so that then the capacity of the drainage infrastructure can accommodate the current pressure of high floods and high intensity rains. Yeah, there is no option. There is in every city all over the world. There is a department of planning, there are engineers, they are able to project the capacity. Of course, like when you're talking about building so many high-rises within this town, it means you'll have within the CBD or near the CBD. It means the population pressure will go up, the sewage, the sewage also will go up, so that our sewage network will also have a challenge of capacity and so many others. So all cities are managed scientifically through planning department where there are engineers, and I'm sure if you call the city hall engineers and planning to this show, they will give you exactly what I'm telling you. It's all about the infrastructure capacity. The infrastructure capacity was designed for low-level rainfalls. It was not designed for climate change, flooding rains like we are seeing now. Because if you look across the country, floods are everywhere. Floods along River Tana. All our dams are full. And River Tana is overflowing into Garissa town. And you can see floods in northern Kenya, something we've never seen. And camels and goats are being swept away by floods. So these floods are literally everywhere. They are not only restricted to the city. And I don't think as a country we have been prepared for such disasters. It is what we shall be witnessing as long as we live with the negative effects of climate change until the effects of climate change, carbon emission is controlled. But you see now, the emitters of carbon are engaging in trade with a belief that they are compensating for those who are getting affected. Are we getting compensated for the floods? It is not just about carbon consumption, but then somebody must take responsibility for the floods, those industrial nations, the carbon emitters. So this is a conversation that we need to scale it to another level. So if we are talking about international intervention to help in such disasters, it should be intervention to compel the industrial nations, the carbon emitters, to put in money to compensate. And I think we need to keep such data, including even human life. They should be compensated by those industrial nations. So I can say, without any iota of doubt, as a scientist, for that matter, that these people who are dying out of these floods and the disasters, whoever should bear the responsibility are the industrial nations who are the carbon emitters. Can they compensate for the same? And can they pump resources to governments and to counties so that then they can put in place the necessary mitigation measures? So it's a bigger conversation that should not end here, and that which our economy doesn't have capacity to prepare itself. Because like now, the rains have struck. Yes, we will argue locally that the meteorological department did not do APCD. Don't blame the meteorological department. They've always done their part. That is a bit. We don't have, the county governments are not using much funds to mitigate these measures. Our budget is so thin, even our own overall national budget, if it was meant to go to deal with such disasters, how much will it take in terms of money to put up infrastructure that can accommodate the tenfold demand and pressure on drainage system in all our cities in town? It's a colossal amount of money. So I think we should look at where the problems come from, and we should direct that problem to that direction while undertaking domestic mitigation measures to alleviate the situation.
All right. Doctors, a deal breaker. A disagreement over what medical interns should be paid has sunk a return-to-work formula negotiated by striking doctors and the government, with authorities saying they have agreed on all but one of the 19 demands by health practitioners, extending Kenyan suffering. Mr. Mwadhi, what do you make of this deal breaker?
Thank you. I think this is an issue which has affected actually the whole country. Because our doctors have been on strike for quite a long time now. And everybody expected an agreement yesterday. Unfortunately, that did not happen. So I can tell you, Kenyans are suffering. And when the government and the doctors don't agree, the person who is taking all this is actually the patient who is actually suffering. If you go out there, you hear stories of people suffering in different ways until you sympathize with the situation. I think there's something that went wrong somewhere. Mheshimiwa is a seasoned trade unionist. And you tell you, the government, I think, should have looked at this early enough and known actually what the doctors wanted early enough. And I did not actually understand, especially in the early days of the strike, when the unionists and the government were meeting, and they've asked the people to go out of the negotiating table was actually the government. The governors, they are the ones who walked out of the negotiating table. Mheshimiwa will tell you, you own in negotiations. There's a unit I teach in the university called negotiation and networking. It will tell you, you only walk out of negotiating table when your deal has actually been achieved, or if you feel that you are completely threatened, and you might. The government was neither of those. So I think in the early days, the government made this to take a very different turn. You see now what came out of that later is now the day before yesterday, the doctors also withdrawing. Just because they are there before. I think the government did not look at what actually the demands for doctors were. You see, the doctors at the 19 demands, all the demands that they had, they came down, and zeroed to 3. And among the 3 is the one of interns.
Intern doctors,
the payment of interns. So they should have actually looked in the negotiations. You look at what is called the BATNA, the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. So they should have known that the major thing, one of the key things that the doctors were not able to let go was the case of the interns. So once you realize that this is what they can't do, these people can't do without, they should have approached that in a different way. Because you see, whatever has been given out is actually what the doctors had even said. Let's do without this. What the doctors or what the unionists said or they agreed, let's do without, and they zeroed on the few. That is what now is on the paper. They're saying now we have given all these, which means these are things which were, those were the hanging fruits we should have agreed on there before, and zeroed on what the doctors actually were their main demands. And one of them, as I've said, is that of the interns. But I think also there's a misunderstanding of the interns we are talking about. These doctors, the reason is why they are very firm, according to me. The reason is why they are firm in this is that their interns are slightly different from other interns. These interns are left sometimes to learn the hospitals. Because remember, these are people who have graduated. These are people, qualified doctors. What they are doing is, it's a requirement for them to go to the intern for 1 year so that they can now get the practice certificate. Because we are in short of doctors in the country. So these are the people who come in and then do a lot of work, do the much work in the level 4, the 3 hospitals, and all that. So the doctors know that when these interns are not well remunerated, the patient will suffer. And because the number of doctors we have in the country are not able to cope with these people with the patient without the interns, what will happen is they also be overstretched. That's why they actually farm on these interns, because they are all qualified doctors. These are the people you go to level 3 hospitals and you are told, Daktari Mukupwa Ayuko, because these interns, actually, some of them are manning these level 3, level 4 hospitals. They are all qualified. So I think there should be an understanding that these people are not just students. They are people who have graduated. They are people who are given responsibilities and perform them well. So actually what they want is just the certificate. And because the doctors union had already, there were signals that this is their key demand. The government should also have addressed this in a way that they will reach an agreement. Otherwise, addressing all the others, minus this particular one, doctors are feeling that we have not gotten our key demand or our key request. So I think, and Mheshimiwa maybe was substantiated on that. Even as you go to the negotiating table for the unions, you should also go with some straight knowledge of the negotiating skills that you should go on the table with. Because from the word go, you can see some chest thumping from the governors and others. You can see some intimidations. These are students like any other. You could see, so all that, it was not good when you talk of good negotiating skills. So even with the county, with the governors, even with the cabinet secretaries, I think they should have borrowed some good negotiating skills from people like Mheshimiwa and the rest who have been in this field for long. I think if the government had done that before, we should be talking of good things now. But now we are still in there. I think government does not have an option. They have to do something about this interns.
Mheshimiwa Session, the bone of contention is on intern doctors. What do you make of that?
I think it's important also for me to state that I have led 4 successful strike actions in this country in my other life and made a case. And any union will call out members on specific issues. Even if there are 5 issues, there will be number 1 issue. The doctor's strike was primarily caused by the issue of internship. The rest of the issues are secondary. The primary issue of demand is the issue of internship. And I think that is where both parties should focus on. Let us not cheat ourselves and scat around this particular matter. And the argument here is the interpretation of who is the intern. The interpretation of who is the intern, according to doctors and the KMPDU, is different from the interpretation of by other parties.
Because even here the CS is saying the intern doctors are overpaid and remain students.
That's what I'm talking about, interpretation. Because if you use wrong interpretation to arrive at a decision, you create a problem. Or if you use a different interpretation that is not understood by the parties that you are targeting, you create a problem. This is where the conflict is. Who are these intern doctors as per the practices that we've had over the years? These are full doctors who are operating on temporary licenses, and the obtaining situation in the country is that they actually run hospitals. They treat patients, they do routines, they operate, they carry out surgeries, they do all that. And then the other sectors, they've always been absorbed to work on what we call probation for 2 years, like me in teaching. I was under probation for 2 years before confirmation. But the doctors go through internship. So the title internship has not been applicable in other professions. It has not been there. And something next to internship for other professions was called teaching practice or field attachment. For me, I trained as an extension officer. So I did my field attachment at Kenangop Agricultural Station. As a teacher, I did my teaching practice at Nakuru High. And once I was graduated at Egerton, I became a full teacher and I was absorbed by TSC. So I think this is a labor contestation and an understanding that can only, and misunderstanding that can be resolved on the table. And the internship item is codified in the collective bargaining agreement, which is placed before court. This is my honest advice to all parties. The faster this matter is unlocked at the table, the better. And if the parties cannot agree at the table, then let the matter be dispensed of by the Employment and Labor Relations Court, because the Employment and Labor Relations Court was created for that matter. Number 2, intimidations, threats, and grandstanding. And I'm saying so from my experience of unlocking strikes. When I led 4 strikes, the moment you pronounce a strike action and you call out members, From that very minute, look for measures to unlock. And the other party must be willing to meet you halfway or to engage.
Yes.
So there is no shortcut. Dialogue, dialogue, dialogue. And I commend the parties so far, because they've been meeting for the whole of last week. Some of the peripheral issues, which is not the primary cause of the strike, I think have been addressed. The primary issue that caused the strike is what now needs hot and tough engagement on the table with the view of looking for options. If indeed health is devolved, according to me, and this is my advice, if indeed health is devolved and the interns are deployed to the health facilities, then they should be paid for by the county government. Because if they are working and they're conducting procedures like, say, an intern undertakes surgery of cesarean surgery, which costs 30,000, there is a doctor's fee. Who is paid that doctor's fee? So you should cost and look at the productivity of that work. And this cost should be transferred to the facility. It can be transferred to the counties. And you can also open up private medical facilities. If they take up interns, then they should pay the full cost of the interns at those rates that are in the CBA. And it is also possible to share. If the portion that the national government has decided that it is paying 70,000, let the national government pay 70,000. Then the other balance can be loaded to the health facilities and county facilities. Let us be serious. This conflict is undermining the preparations for the rollout of UHC. And I know that is what is affecting everyone in government. We want peace, industrial peace. Let the doctors go back to work. Let the ministry and those parties involved engage meaningfully. And this is a matter, industrial issues, if you cannot resolve them on the table, don't expect the courts to really offer so much. The parties must agree. And if it is an issue of 206,000, how did we arrive at 206,000? How was the process? And if we have to look for a way of alleviating, offloading it from government, and then we must seek for win-win serious engagements and look at other options of managing this process. Otherwise, the grandstanding, because I've seen the doctors have said, okay, government, you have agreed to give us, you have given us 18 out of the 19. Take the 18 and give us only one, number 19. So that tells us, without any logics, we don't need a lot of logics. We are a country of conversations and serious conversations. The deal breaker is the internship. Can parties sit on the table, be patient, avoid grandstanding, avoid threats, everything. Threats don't help at all.
Actually, I was about to ask, what about cases of intimidation? Because we have had instances where governors have threatened to sack doctors.
Now, I can say without iota of doubt, even as a government insider and as a labor leader, threats don't help. So vacate the threats. Vacate the threats completely. Let us engage decently. Vacate the threats. Threats don't help. It only helps to fuel. It creates another phase of conflict, which is not necessary. And that phase of conflict translates to suffering of the patients who are in hospital. These phases of conflicts translates to undermining and threats of the UHC. The government party that has been negotiating, I think they've done very well, and I commend them. And this is one thing I should also say, from my experience of engagement in labor issues and the government response, I think this one, the government has been highly responsive, to be very honest, because they've addressed very many issues, The only contentious thing, the hot potato on the table, is this internship. So it's still being rotated around. But the attention from the government has been very good. Save for some of these threats. And I dare say, drop the issue of threats. we will work with these doctors. We'll work with all workers. There will be demands from workers. And I can say the government of Kenya Kwanza is so responsive to workers, extremely responsive. In fact, the President of the Republic, I think I've never known of a President of the Republic of Kenya who has addressed ILO conference in Geneva the way the President has done. So really, we have a government that is pro-labor, pro-workers, and I think, and the engagement has been so good, save for this threat. So these threats, grandstanding from both parties, the union dropped the grandstanding and government dropped the threats. Those in government issuing threats, whether counties and whatnot, go to the table and discuss this thing of internship. Don't leave the table unless you have a solution. Because I know these are brilliant minds, and we have a brilliant country with options and with solutions. Go to the table, discuss. There will be eventually an agreeable win-win solution to the issue of internship. Then we mobilize the country. I'm looking forward to 1st of July to see Kenyans walking to their primary health care facilities and other facilities to be treated for free. We are looking forward to seeing a seamless rollout of universal health coverage where the critical illnesses can be treated, like cancer, TB, and the rest. That is what we want to see. Who will deliver that? These doctors. So can we finish the conflicts with these doctors amicably in a win-win circumstance? A strike offers an opportunity for both the employer and employee to correct circumstances. So this is an opportunity for both government at both levels and the doctors to see loopholes and correct challenges within the healthcare system so that we deliver a working healthcare system where there are no fraud in terms of insurances. And you have seen the business between NHIF and medical facilities has been forgeries and whatnot. We get rid of all these corrupt issues and we deliver quality healthcare services to all Kenyans, conducted by the medical doctors whom we must have confidence in and whom we love and who have been trained through the resources of Kenyans.
Mr. Mwathi, you wanted to say something.
Yes. I think from this depot, we can even look at the gaps. Well, agreeing very well with what Mheshimiwa said about the understanding actually of the key and the key cause of this strike and the biggest demand that the doctors were having. Actually, it's the intern. And it is, I agree with the Mheshimiwa 100% that the bone of contention here is people are not actually understanding. Not actually understanding what these interns mean when it comes to medical, to the doctors. Because in the medical fields, interns will learn maybe a level 3 hospital. In other fields, an engineer, because I've had it tells where as engineers also go for 5 years, and engineers will not manage. Teachers, just like Mheshimiwa said, teachers who are in attachment or teaching practice will not run a school. So there's a difference between the interns we are talking about, the teachers, and the interns we are talking about, and the teachers and other professions, and the teachers, the interns of the doctors. But as a governance expert, because that's the area I'm trained in, we have a very, very, very good constitution. And even with our constitution, the 2010 constitution is put on the table. Even internationally, it will carry the day. But there is this issue of health. I think it's also an issue that after all this, which should be addressed, because health was devolved. The bone of contention here is national government is paying, willing to pay 70,000. The doctors are requesting for 206. This 206 has been paid before. So it is not. It did not come from the moon and say that we are demanding 236.
Yeah.
That means that it is something that had been looked at and seen that 236 is good for these people. It's now what they are doing is taking it away.
Yes.
Mheshimiwa, we will tell you that taking away what you have given is actually will always bring issues. So the issue of it should be the issue of where will this money come from. And the reason as to why this is becoming big is the issue of governance.
Yes.
Because health is half in government, half in the county government.
Yeah.
Look at all other issues.
Yes.
Like education. Education is almost 98% in the national government. That's why there is a smooth flow. So health is devolved, but it is 50-50. A bigger part in government, bigger part in the in the county government. My issue is even after this strike is a wake-up call to tell us that once we don't have a very clear governance issues saying that this is how health they will learn, we will always have some of these problems. So if you go through even other demands, the other demands which were there, which were not key, you'll hear that, okay, a professional doctor who is maybe taking his master's, who is going to the university, the money is paying by the county government to the university. Okay, this university is part of the national government. So if the county doesn't pay, then the university will not give these students the exam. And it's those kind of mix up in the Ministry of Health. I think it should be part of our long-term plan to see how leader health department or Ministry of Health will be streamlined in a way that we will not see this before. Otherwise, if we just, even if the doctors strike end, which we are hoping it will end soon after understanding actually what these interns are and looking for where this money can come from, in the long run, we should look at the Ministry of Health and see how we should have a smooth flow of it. Unlike now, when it is partly when the deal is good in the national government, we are there. When the deal is good in the county government, we are there and blame the other. So the point I wanted to make is that in the midst of a very good, perfect 2010 constitution, the Ministry of Health should be looked at, and the Parliament should be able to come up with ways which maybe do not have to go to the referendum and all that. See of how the ministry can be streamlined in a way that national government and county government are not crashing. Yeah.
Now, there's a story about...
I think a key issue that has been raised, which is a challenge, is the Constitution. In 2010, we as teachers, through Kenya National Union of Teachers, advocated for centralized management of teachers, whereas there was a push for teachers to be devolved and managed at the counties. But because of the political canvassing and capacity that we had, we were able to centralize the teacher management. And as you can see, the teacher management system is one of the best. There is no issue at all. There is no difference between teachers and doctors. In fact, doctors are high caliber workers. They never fought for the Health Service Commission. They're now proposing it as an afterthought, after seeing how TSC is working. And as a country, I think what is right is right. We've been with this constitution for the last 14 years, and it can be audited. What needs to be corrected should be corrected. I am sure the matters of human resource, employment, terms and conditions of service, promotions, and all things which the doctors are talking about can be domiciled in one unit called the Health Service Commission, and where all these programs are undertaken, including posting, deployment, transfer, and all that. It is something that the doctors have the medics have raised, it is contained in the charter that the president signed, and I am sure if we can actualize, if today, this morning, a health service commission was put in place, this strike will automatically end, and all these disputes will end. So we are dealing with a constitutional challenge that is threatening the health sector, and that which the doctors are feeling so demeaned. And we are facing a risk of doctors taking registration courses in other jurisdictions and moving out. We can lose them. It is possible. Our doctors are on demand in Europe, North America, Australia, and the other strong economies. And we can end up losing them. So I think there is need to actualize urgently the issue of the Health Service Commission. If the Health Service Commission were in place today, I can tell you we are very sure of delivering universal health coverage without any problem. But as you can see now, there are disparities. For example, comprehensive insurance cover. 35 counties are able to pay, and 12 counties cannot pay. Now you see that becomes a problem in itself, and you have to sign 47 different collective bargaining agreements, negotiate different aspects, and we are talking about a critical service in our governance system, delivering the health care. We must have standardized, clear, and motivating and terms and conditions of service codified within one house called the Health Service Commission. I'm one believer because I fought for the Teacher Service Commission, and therefore I still believe teachers should continue remaining centralized within that, and also doctors should. The other aspects of the healthcare system can be devolved. The aspects of infrastructure, aspect of programs and mapping out, and other policies other than human resource, so that we have the human resource managed centrally, but the other programs of healthcare should be devolved. So I think we have a constitutional, legal, and managerial challenge within the health sector. And the indicator of the same is these frequent strikes with the doctors. And if you look at it, the strikes by medics are the longest. Now that today they're getting, is it the 50th today? The other time it was 100 and something days. Even when they were convicted for contempt of court, they still could not listen. They were hardened. And I know when workers are in strike mood, they will stick to that position, and they will do it. So you look at this frequency of strike. I remember the longest teacher strike was 36 days, because we have an employer that you can wriggle around and get solutions and call off the strike. And so very often teachers and the employer have got very, very narrow gaps in terms of understanding and in terms of dealing with many issues. So I think let's agree there is something we are not doing about the healthcare workers in this country, which originates from the Constitution, and it's more of governance, and as a country we have to down. I wish the strike action was demanding the healthcare, the Health Service Commission. If that one was achieved, we will not witness medics going on strike.
That would streamline the activities in the healthcare sector. It will. And the synergy between the county government and the national government.
It will. Let us not treat the symptoms. Let us identify the disease. When you identify the disease, the root cause, it is half the cure. So if we treat the symptoms today, a few months down the line, when it comes to negotiating CBAs, we'll have different CBAs, we'll have disagreements. When you see governors threatening that I've sacked 59 doctors out of 52, and others are saying we want to import doctors, those are main possibilities. The thing is, we don't have a working management system for the healthcare workers in this country. And they need to be centralized under a health service commission, just like the teacher service commission, will not have these problems. It may not be done immediately,
yes,
but it's something that should be considered.
Yes. Boniri, your parting shot as we come to the close of this segment.
Thank you. I think this country, the way where we are, the issue of wananchi suffering just because of the strike is not doing any good for us. So both the parties should come in and look for the short-term solutions for doctors to go on strike and the patient to get treatment. In the long run, as we have said, let us look at the long-term issues that we are not back here again. Let us use the why analysis of looking at the root cause of our problem, solve that so that we don't witness this again. If that happens, that will be a big gift to the country, to the patient, to everybody else in terms of the problem we are having today. And everybody will celebrate.
All right. Mheshimiwa Sossion, your parting shot.
Well, I think there is always an answer.
Yeah.
And I am sure I still urge the parties not to drop the ball.
Yeah.
If you have covered 18 steps, one step which is the 19th, and one step which is the most critical, go to the table. I urge doctors, go to the table.
Yes.
Yeah, don't promote tension. You know, in conflict, you complicate a conflict. And there is a phase of conflict. You generate a conflict, complicate the conflict, and then you resolve the conflict. So both parties must be committed to resolving the conflict. So you can still go to the table and maintain your position. That's the most important. Don't walk out from the table. Let the parties talk to us from the table. We see them differing, we see ideas on the table. And I'm sure when people reason at the table and other authorities are consulted, there will be solutions. So I urge the parties, don't run away. Go to the table and avoid any grandstanding. That is my advice.
Yes, asante sana. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining our show. Mheshimiwa Sossion there talking to us on The Viewpoint. He is the former nominated MP, and also Ireri Wamwathi, who is a governance and leadership expert. Thank you for tuning in to The Viewpoint. Don't go too far. Good Morning Kenya continues shortly. We'll be back with more. Stay with us.
Are you a talented artist? Or are you passionate about a topic you want to discuss? But money can be very hard to find for an upcoming artist. Don't worry, Studio Mashinani has got your back. Sign up on ajira.co.ke to book a session with your music and video producers across the country. Work on your music, jingles, spoken words, and even podcasts to realize your dream. All for free. Studio Mashinani, Radani Talent.
Come on in, Miss Messina, now alone, I can't get. Try not to make it me, can't make. Never lost my way. Never see the icon get confused. People come to Jamaica and not know how we live things. Say everything nice to it, full of vibes and things. Them same one feel it to them heart when them get few understand the real thing. Yeah, me day at town one day, I far with a white man will come all the way from Norway. I'm sorry. حبيبي سلام الله عليك.
Atakayefunga mwezi wa Ramadhani kisha baada ya Ramadhani akafunga 6 min Shawwal, siku 6 katika Shawwal, anapata thawabu kana kasiyami dahari, atapata thawabu kana kwamba huyu mtu kafunga mwaka mzima. Muislamu kishasikia maneno mazuri kama haya, yatakikana uwe na hamu na morali ya kuyatenda yale mazuri.
Kumbuka kuwa funga ni kinga dhidi ya kuingia motoni, na vile vile pia funga ni ibada ambayo inamkurubisha mja kwa Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Usimtese yatima, ndugu yangu nisikia, simfanyie dhuluma.
Could someone please pour some cold water on?
Life can be very busy, but everyone deserves a laugh. We inject humor in your week's activities with episodes of Classmates.
You need to see this.
Camaraderie, mischief, and everything in between, to keep you smiling all week long.
I have a few minutes of Bordeaux, so why not?
Tune in to KBC Channel 1 every Monday to Friday at 6:30 p.m. for a daily dose of comedy.
We travel to Gilgil, Nakuru County to meet one military veteran, retired Lieutenant Colonel Dr. Michael Munyoki, who welcomes us to his complex.
I was born on the 24th December 1958 in Machakos, but specifically in Yata. And then I went to school, a local primary school called Chasion, and then I went for secondary school in a place called Baikin. So Baikin Secondary School is in the Wamonyo, Machakos. Announcement of recruitment for the Kenya Defense Forces came, and then I chose to go and try. And then we were told to report to Lanet, at Lanet, FTC, Armed Forces Training College then. We went through the same screening medical, and then I qualified, and I went to training for 9 months. I commissioned on the 26th of March 1982. I was posted to 66 Artillery Battalion, Kenyatta Barracks in Gilgil.
The 1982 coup happened just months after he enlisted and was among officers who responded to secure Nakuru, where the then President Daniel Arap Moi was at the time.
I took action, I mobilized troops, gave briefings and deployed them. We had a roadblock here in Gilgil, along Gilgil Karianduzi Road. When the President reached the State House Nakuru, there was the fear tense, and it's like, how does the President reach Narok? So we organized such that he was brought here, and when he was here, actually near the junction here, we put him on a panad, the small armored cars.
He remembers one of his most challenging assignments in Kapedo in 1983 as one of the officers deployed to secure the volatile Rift Valley.
Then we recovered so many cows, and we also lost quite a number of soldiers from 9K. Cattle rustlers were very smart. When they realize you are bombing, they will go under the caves, and when you finish, they will come out and still continue their activities.
A military-trained doctor, Munyoki would be sent out in 1999 for more training in Pakistan, where he trained as an instructor in gunnery and came back to Kenya to the School of Artillery in Embakasi.
Those are rare opportunities to get. I was deployed in School of Artillery, where I worked for more than 7 years. I left there to go to attend Defense Staff College. I was promoted to Lieutenant Colonel and posted as a commanding officer.
He also served in numerous United Nations peacekeeping missions in the region and beyond as a trainer. His most notable mission was in 2002 when he served in Ethiopia and Eritrea, where he was instrumental in the introduction of peer education in the military.
I was there for 1 year plus, and that's the time I streamlined peacekeeping standards more so on the training.
He notes some of the challenges.
All right, welcome back. Let's continue with the viewpoint and switch gears now, and we are talking about the NGCDF, or the National Government Constituency Development Fund, which was introduced back in 2003. So it's now 20 years since its inception, and we are going to take a look at what has been achieved so far and even the challenges. And in studio with me to help me in this conversation is none other than Abdiaziz Bule, who is also a board director at National Government Constituency Development Fund, Madam Elizabeth Kitundu, who is the Chief Manager Programs on NGCDF, and also George Ole Meshuko, who is also a board director. Karibuni sana to the viewpoint.
Thank you.
Yes, so if I may start with you, Mr. George, what would you say are the achievement or the impact of NGCDF since its inception?
Thank you so much, and good morning, viewers. As you have heard, my name is George Ole Meshuko. I'm director of the board of National Government CDF Board for almost 4 years running now. CDF was started in 2003, and we are at the apex of 20 years of the existence of the board or the fund. The main achievements of this fund is that we have expanded the education sector infrastructure by very high levels. By now we have done almost 3,000 classes, half of it, which is 55% primary schools and 45% primary schools. This fund has received almost 460 or 470 billion shillings from the National Treasury. We have, apart from the classes, we have done dormitories for the schools. We have done laboratories for schools. Yeah. We have also done a lot in the security sector, building offices for the police, the National Police Service, the administration sector, and even putting high masts on for security lights for the low-end dwellers in our various towns in our countries. So the match is we have done a lot for the education sector. For up to this place, almost 8 million students have received bursaries from the kitty, from the fund. Yeah. You know, when you mention CDF, everybody thinks it's bursary. The reason is that the biggest percentage of our funds goes to education. Within that education percentage, almost between 35 to 40% is given to bursary. That has enabled students or pupils from the low-income cadres in our republic to get access to fees paid by the CDF, which has been an obstacle. It has even reduced the amount of fundraisings for the students across the country. Yes.
Madam Elizabeth, let me come to you. Can you say authoritatively that the CDF has become an instrument of sustainable development in the country?
Thank you, and good morning, viewers. I would really agree with that explanation that NGCDF has brought about sustainable development. And you see, when you talk about sustainable development, we are looking at how the human development is interacting with the ecosystem and how we are bringing out a balance. So when you look at our projects under the NGCDF, you realize that we are very careful about taking care of the environment. Sustainability in that, even currently, 5% of our funds go to climate change, which means we are very much aware that whatever development we are undertaking must be cognizant of the environment. And further, I wish also to reiterate that we look at the projects that we have implemented, first of all, to ensure that there is that sustainable development. We ensure even the involvement of the public in terms of the implementation. So they will be sustainable in terms of ownership and in so many other aspects. Thank you.
Yes. Mr. Abdiaziz, let me come to you. What contributes to the effectiveness of NGCDF in terms, when it comes, we are talking about projects and budgeting. What contributes to this effectiveness?
Very well, thank you very much. What contributes is how the Act has specified what this fund should be undertaken. The Act is very clear on a project that's supposed to be undertaken under this fund. It is the Act that guides the boards on what should be implemented. Under this Act, the board role falls on three major sectors. That's education, security, and environment, which now we call majorly the education sector receives the highest percentage, followed by the security sector. Under the education sector, we can categorize into three. That's now the infrastructure part, the bursary, and the tertiary. Under now the tertiary, for example, the judge has mentioned that the money we spend on the secondary and the primary. Not only that, but also a huge amount of money goes to tertiary. For example, Kenya, through this fund, 61 Kenya medical training colleges were funded, of which now 34 of them are in full gear and functioning. Under again the same, through the collaboration of the Ministry of Education, the fund has contributed technical training institutes. 130 and or so technical trainings were contributed on through this fund. So we say that this fund has hugely impacted on the education sector. On the same line, the security sector, when we say security sector, it starts with the assistant chief, the offices, and the setups. It goes to the chief, the police, housing of police, housing of the police. It goes to the administration offices. So it touches security at large after the education sector. Also, in the same light, it touches in the environment, of which now, as by the changes of Act 2023, it is now it's no longer now the environment. It's called the climate change. With that now, it is as by the government agenda of transforming the environment.
So it's also playing a part in the fight against the effects of climate change.
The government is committed. How best can we transform our environment? As you have seen now, the floods, sometimes the hot weather. Now it is 5% of this fund is allocated to the environment vote. That's now as per the government directives, as His Excellency the President has directed. And as a board, we are committed to transform the environment aspect.
Madam Elizabeth, how has NGCDF contributed to easy access of education as opposed to when we did not have this fund?
Thank you. Thank you so much for that question. We are looking at NGCDF as really having promoted education access. One aspect we need to look at is, if you look at the percentage which goes to education, including bursary, that is 78%. That is a huge percentage. And moreover, we are talking of infrastructural development and bursary. Now, we, over the years, the 20 years, we are talking about close to 3,000 schools, whereby around 1,300 primary schools and 1,700 secondary schools. So what we are saying here is that we look at NGCDF as having brought about people who could have, or pupils and students who could not have accessed education to be able to access. I imagine vast or far-flung counties or constituencies have really benefited, because where could these students and pupils be? Furthermore, we are looking at, think about 15 billion annually going to bursary. That is a huge amount.
Yes.
And we are glad that every year we can proudly say that we sponsor about 1.2 million students. So we are contributing and we are supplementing government's initiatives to ensure that we have free education, both in primary and secondary schools. So over the 20 years, we can say we have really somewhere. We are really somewhere in attaining that maybe dream of ensuring that there is access to education.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, Mr. Mishuko, CDF in a way is involved directly with the citizens of a particular constituency. Now, what is their role in terms of identifying priority projects in all this?
Thank you, Mr. Migwe. First and foremost, you asked how effective is the process of the fund.
Yes.
I want to say that out of the 100% funds that are sent to the board, 95% of the funds are sent to the constituencies, the 290 constituencies in Kenya. 5% is retained at the board for operational issues, and therefore, according to the law, the NGCDF Act of 2015, as amended in 2023, is that we have a process that is deemed to make it the least bureaucracy of government agencies. The 95% of the money that is sent to the constituencies, they are allocated, money is allocated to percentages of the projects within, as said, as education, security, environment. We have a very little for administration in the constituency. Now, we have three organs in the board, in the fund. First, there is a board of directors. Second, we have the management. And then we have our committees on the ground, which we call NGCDFC committees. That is a committee that is the overall player in the constituency. The question that you have asked about how do we identify projects, the Act provides the process where the committees will have to hold meetings from every ward of a constituency, be it a constituency has 9 wards, another has 3. They'll have to go all the constituencies, do public barazas, which is the citizens' meetings, for the public, the citizens, to identify the projects where they will put in priority. And then they are amalgamated by the committees of the constituency. They are put in that form of priority so that they can be sent as proposals to the board. The board will view the proposals. We will approve according to their needs and the finances. And then we finance through disbursement of the funds to the constituencies. So wananchi are the key people that are going to identify which school, which class, which lab is more needy in whichever part of that ward, so that they can be brought up to the constituency level for the committee to present it to the board.
Yes. We are going to take a short break. We'll be right back with more. Don't go too far. This is The Viewpoint.
Kenya Broadcasting Corporation is Kenya's most trusted news and entertainment brand. Grow your business, acquire more clients, and reach new, diverse audiences by advertising with us. We connect brands to audiences that matter, driving results for brands and enhancing your current marketing strategies. We have packages for all needs, and no product is too small for us. Contact us today and capitalize on our combined power of radio, TV, and digital platforms. KBC, connecting Kenyans.
Yes, you have his eyes.
He does not know you're here.
But truly, we cannot harm Mr. Kaika.
You think?
That will be breaking the law.
How do you think J&J was built?
Alice, if anything happens to me,
You'll what?
I will hound you from 6 feet under.
You had only one job, George.
Wacha kunichekesha hivyo, my ribs still hurts.
You should be grateful that's the only part of your body that hurts.
1 minute tulikuwa na yeye. The next minute ametoka nje. I didn't know you were coming back today.
Nah, I just came in to hand in my resignation letter. If it is about the salary, I can talk to your boss. Not really. It's not about the pay.
Alice really convinced you, huh?
It doesn't look like a very good day for J&J.
He's not alone.
Uko sure kuna Ronald?
Nani mwingine amequit?
Will you tell him or should I, Ronald?
Huyo Kaikara amekuthreaten na nini?
I really wish a day will come when we can all speak in one voice as classmates.
Hey, girlfriend, don't let anyone step on your freedom of expression.
Moving on swiftly.
Aingalwa bana imagine vitengeza hapo new couples wenye mapenzi yao bado ni moto moto.
Leave alone couples. Some of our bodies do not look well in vitenge. We can all see that, duh.
Chantel had a nice figure, right? Oops. Did I say that aloud?
That is a hit song. That is a rap hit song.
It's always a pleasure having you on board here on Good Morning Kenya. And this is A Viewpoint, and we are talking about 20 years of National Government Constituency Development Fund achievement. And we continue with this conversation. And I want to pose this question to Madam Elizabeth. What is the role of the NGCDF board?
Thank you so much, Migwe. Let me start by saying that the NGCDF board is a corporate established under the NGCDF Act. Now, it is a management structure. It's a structure that enables that project proposals from constituencies are approved, and also ensures that they are funded in accordance with the NGCDF Act. Further, the NGCDF board is charged with the mandate of ensuring even the best practices. What I mean by that is that we as the NGCDF board or the board normally wants to showcase best practices in constituencies by implementing some of the projects to give it as an example. Further, the board is charged with the responsibility of handling complaints, because every place where there is development going on, of course, there will be complaints here and there. So the board plays that role. We also have the board ensuring efficient management of the fund, because we want to make sure that whatever funds we get, and the director has clearly stated that we have received over 464 billion, that money must be managed in accordance with the law and also other statutes. So actually what you're saying is that the board plays a key role to ensure that funds are well managed. And of course, any other duty, any other assignments that the board may be given, including even ensuring that constituency committees are capacity built. Yes.
Mr. Abdiaziz, what is the selection process like for an NGCDF board? What is the process and its composition?
Very well. The board is composed of 7 independent board directors and 4 directors from the apparent ministries. Out of the 7 independent directors, 3 are on the gender-based. The appointing authority is the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Treasury and Planning. With the consultation of Public Service Commission. Thereafter, it is taken to the Assembly, and the Assembly that normally does the vetting of the Board of Directors. That's how the Board of Directors are constituted.
What about that CDF board at the constituency level? Does the MP have a say in it?
Very well. The Constituency Development Committee are also under the Act. This is a team selected from each ward. Thereafter, with the specific qualifications. Thereafter, they are gazetted because they will manage a fund. They will manage the money on behalf of their constituents. Those now will be mandated to handle the funds at the constituency level. They represent every ward. Those people, when we are picking, they represent every ward. They also constitute people of disability, the gender also. A lot of things are considered when selecting the constituency committee. Now, whenever they submit the request as by the need of the constituency, let me say this. When they're selecting projects, they go around and do what we call public forum or public participation. So every ward has its own need. They pick now the request from all the constituent wards. Every ward has village, and they go to all those villages. They do what we call project proposal. They compile a report. That report now is being received by the National CDF Board. Now the board will approve as per the priority and the need of those projects. So those constituency, let's say now the member of parliament is an overall patron. But he doesn't administer the administration of the fund. At the grassroots level, the member of parliament also does oversight at the assembly, but he doesn't undertake the activity at the constituency.
Now, Mr. Olemeshuko, how does the board ensure that these projects that the NGCDF is funding adhere to the regulations laid out?
Well, thank you so much. First and foremost, our projects must be aligned to our medium-term plan of the 4th medium MTP of 2030. It is also aligned with the new government model, that is bottom-up economic transformation agenda. Now, the projects that we fund is that projects that are aligned with the core functions of the national government. You know, after devolution, we have 2 levels of government, where some other functions have been taken to the county governments. So specifically, we do functions that are core to the national government, that is education, security. Most of the time, there are issues that projects that we cannot fund. We cannot fund projects that are geared toward religion or religious activities. We cannot fund projects that are geared to politics or political activities. At the same time, we do not, apart from the ICT hubs, which is a new entrant in our projects, other projects that have recurrent expenditure do not qualify to be funded by the board. And lastly, and very important, we do not fund projects that are deemed to benefit individuals it must be the group, the society that are geared to benefit from these projects. Schools, KMTC, the ICT hubs, the security sector, it must offer benefits to the larger group of people, not individual.
Yes.
Yes.
Madam Elizabeth, talk about the collaboration between the Member of Parliament and the NGCDF board in terms of achieving successful project implementation.
Thank you, Migwe. I want to start by saying that the role of the Member of Parliament, as foreseen in the Constitution, is representation, oversight, and legislation. Now, when it comes to NGCDF, the Member of Parliament comes in, starting with the National Assembly. The National Assembly is the one that approves the act that helps in the implementation of our operations. They also actually provide generally the legal framework. And they also make sure that the structures that manage the fund are in accordance with the law. We can also say that we have a select committee that is charged with the responsibility of overseeing national government NGCDF. Let me put it that way. We call it the National Assembly Select Committee on NGCDF. Now, their role is to ensure that the legal framework is in place, meaning that whatever projects that are implementable are in line with the Act. And when I say in line with the Act, I talk about what the new law requires, that we only undertake only exclusive functions of the national government. So that is the role of the NASC, to ensure that the board and any other structure complies with the Act in terms of management of the fund. I will also bring in another angle of the Member of Parliament. Of course, we know that there was a challenge. We had previously in our Act, the 2022, where the Member of Parliament was playing a role under a committee that was being called the Constituency Oversight Committee, where he was the chair. But currently in this 2023 Act, he is no longer, that committee is not there. It was, the Act was repealed to make sure that there is separation of power. So what we are saying is that basically the Member of Parliament, being a stakeholder also in the constituency, he's an elected member of a particular constituency. They also have a right, or they have a role in ensuring that whatever projects that are identified by the community serve that community. So they are part of the public, that is what I'm saying. So I want to bring it out clearly that the role of the Member of Parliament is quite remote in the NGCDF fund because of the issue of separation of power. We as NGCDF undertake the executive role where we are supposed to implement projects. But the Member of Parliament comes in now to make the laws and play oversight. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Abdiaziz, I'd love to know, is there a way that the board guides the constituency committees in identifying priority impactful projects?
Thank you, Mike. Yes, the board guides constituencies. We regularly share on guidelines and policies to constituencies. Now that, if in case of any changes, it is upon the board now to guide the constituencies, whether the changes on Act, whether the changes on the board policies. We keep on updating the constituencies on how best they can transform or undertake the projects that were expected. Recently, there was a change in the Act 2023 that had a number of issues, including the climate change issue. What was expected of the board was to guide the fund towards this agenda. And that was communicated immediately to constituencies, and where there was required a training, we offered training to constituencies. Now it is upon the board to align the activity of the fund as per the government agenda of the day, to transform with the agenda of bottom-up with the current government. So we provide policies, we provide guidelines as expected of the board.
Yes. Mr. Mishuko, let me come to you. Of course, we cannot say since 2003 the process has been smooth. Maybe talk to us about some of the challenges that CDF has faced since then and how you have come to address them.
Well, I think one of the main challenges has been and is still the challenge of existence of our board or the fund, where some civil society has continually taken the fund to the judiciary or to the courts to say that it is illegal. But the various changes of the acts by Parliament has tried to align the fund, the laws that are governing this fund to be inconsistent with the order that is needed. The other challenge is about finance. You know, always finance is not always enough.
Yes.
So here and there we have been having disbursement challenges, but that continually is being addressed by our parent ministry, which I want to say that we're on good course. Those are the main challenges, but the operational challenges about the act, about the operational activities down at the ground is being addressed by the board as the executive arm of the fund, and also the change of the laws by the National Assembly.
Yes.
Those are the major challenges that we have been having.
Yes.
Yes.
Have you ever received cases where some constituents feel like some areas are favored more than others?
Constituencies are not favored. But areas, the complaints that we usually get from in a sample constituency is that sometimes we get citizens saying that we have not been having projects compared to that area. So we are, as my manager said earlier, we have a section of complaints in the board led by our legal team where those complaints are brought and they are fully addressed in due time. Yes.
Mr. Abdiaziz, are there new areas that henceforth the CDF is going to focus on as we talk about matters sustainable development?
Very well. The new areas that now as per the current Act of 2023 include the issue of climate change, and that is being given more emphasis. Initially, there was 2% of the funds that were allocated to the climate change, but now that has been changed to 5% of the fund. It's a quite good number of good percentage. That's one part that is we really focusing as per the directive of His Excellency the President.
Yes.
The other issue is we have our demonstration, our own board projects. So what we are focusing more on is quality, durable project in our constituencies. He has mentioned that there are those areas within the constituency because of maybe politics that feels we have not been receiving on the company on the same line. But what we are focusing on the project that can serve the interest of our citizen, quality projects. It was in the limelight that some time back that some constituencies were having challenges on maybe classrooms, those maybe we can call them politics. What we have now gone, if 3,087 thereabout classes were constructed for the last 20 years, KMTC, technical trainings, and MOSO. The environment part, I think we are on course, we are doing great. And next few years, as by the changes of the Act now, more is expected of the board.
Yes. As we come to a close of this program, I'd love to hear from you, Madam Elizabeth. What is the vision of the National Government Constituency Development Fund in terms of development within the country in the next 5 years?
Thank you so much. When I look at NGCDF, you know, we are all about ensuring equitable development at the constituency level.
Yes.
So, looking at what we are doing for the next 5 years, because of what Honorable Meshuko has mentioned, the issue of having those litigations, we look at a fund which will be enshrined in the Constitution, so that it is ring-fenced and we are able to undertake our mandate, making sure that we have the kind of classrooms that we need, the kind of infrastructure that we need for community. We also are looking at how are we going to change the environment, in that we are looking at what is happening in our world today. We need to do something about the climate.
Yeah.
So we had mentioned that we are setting aside 5% to climate change. So in the next 5 years, we want to see afforestation happening, reforestation. We want to see the community sensitized on climate change and how we can mitigate. In the next 5 years, we are looking at how can we continually ensure that we have access to education? Because we are saying that education is free, but we have to supplement. We have to ensure that through bursary, we are able to get more people or more pupils and students attain education. We are looking at how do we fall into making sure that there is 100% transition from primary to secondary school. So in the next 5 years, and God willing, we shall be able to see ourselves even get more funding. Because the law has the ring-fenced NGCDF that we cannot receive less in the current financial year. So we continually get more money. Thank you.
Mr. Ole Meshuko, your parting shot.
Oh, my parting shot?
Yes.
First and foremost, going to the future, as my colleagues have said, the fund is going as one of the government agencies. We will strive to really put up our activities based on a better bottom-up economic transformation agenda. That is a key anchor policy of our government, led by our President, His Excellency William Ruto. The other thing is that we look forward as a fund for the entrenchment of this fund to the Constitution, so that we will not face challenges of extinction or extermination by the civil society as it happened in 2022 in July. The other thing is that we have one of the biggest challenges as a country for our youth. And that is why we have the new policy on ICT hubs entrenched also in, as one of our operations going forward, so that in the coming 5 years or beyond, our young ones, our youth will be having the hubs in every constituency or in every ward, where they will be getting the ajira, so that we can, that is addressing the unemployment issue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Elizabeth, 1 second.
My colleagues have mentioned it, and actually we need to...
Yes. Sasa, thank you, but I'm told we are out of time, but yeah, we'll thank you for making time for us, but yeah, we'll continue having these conversations and letting Kenyans know what is happening in terms of NGCDF. I was talking to Abdiaziz Bule Yaro, who is also a board director at NGCDF board, and also Madam Elizabeth Kitundu, who is also the chief manager of programs NGCDF, and George Olemeshuko, board director NGCDF. This has been The Viewpoint. My name is Mike Megwe. Keep it KBC, and don't go too far. Vivian is coming right back with more.
几乎是吧？
几乎
反而变成了美丽的外表。它所包容的微观和包容它的宏观，可能更加混乱。
就现在你和我也想不明白。
时间的尽头。From morning me so me seen and alone I can't catch. Try not to make it me, can't make. Never lost my way. Never see the icon get confused. People come to Jamaica and not know how we live things. Say everything nice to it, full of vibes and things. Them same one feel it to them heart when them get few understand the real thing. Yeah, me day at town one day, I far with a white man we come all the way from Norway. I'm sorry, but I'm leaving you. You never should have made me cry. I'm sorry, but I'm leaving you. And I'm never coming back again. I'm sorry, but I'm leaving you.
Could someone please pour some cold water on me?
Life can be very busy. But everyone deserves a laugh. We inject humor in your week's activities with episodes of Classmates.
You need to see this.
Camaraderie. Mischief. And everything in between. To keep you smiling all week long.
I have a few minutes of Bordeaux, so why not?
Tune in to KBC Channel 1 every Monday to Friday at 6:30 p.m. for a daily dose of comedy.
Welcome back to the show and thank you for staying tuned to Good Morning Kenya. Now, today being a Wednesday, it is Women at the Forefront, and that is the segment that is on air right now. I am joined by two amazing ladies, and our topic of discussion today is on what really is the Kenyan situation of workers in Saudi Arabia. And joining me for that is Faith Murunga. Faith Murunga is the Survivor Liaison Officer, and we also have Stephanie Marigo. Stephanie Marigo is the Legal Advisor. Stephanie and Faith, welcome to Good Morning Kenya.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want us to begin by you telling us what Global Justice Group is all about, because that is the group that you work in. If I may begin with you, Stephanie.
Thank you. Thank you, Vivian, for having us today. I'm Stephanie Marigu, and the Legal Advisor and Program Manager at Global Justice Group. So Global Justice Group is an NGO that supports victims of international crimes to access justice. And justice in this sense, we are looking at reparative justice, a right to remedy. And we support victims of terrorism, genocide, and right now we have a program in Kenya that is focused on victims of human trafficking and modern slavery. And what we are currently doing is we are documenting the evidence of multiple Kenyan, particularly Kenyan women domestic workers who went to Saudi Arabia and were exploited and have faced various challenges, and trying to see how, based on that evidence that we have documented, we can institute a legal claim for them to be able to access judicial remedy, which could be compensation, a guarantee of non-repetition, amongst other remedies available at the courts of justice, as well as to use that evidence to inform advocacy interventions, to be able to assess what are the gaps, what are the challenges, and how can those gaps be addressed. So that is what we're currently doing at Global Justice Group in Kenya.
Yeah.
Yes.
And if asked, what really is the situation of Kenyan workers in Saudi Arabia?
Okay, the situation is not that, it's not what the people expect, or it's not what people hear about. The only people who can say about what they went through is only migrant returnee, the person who went there and came back. So on my side, I didn't expect what I found there.
I can say it ended in a tragic way, which I did not expect it.
Yeah, just to clarify, you are among the survivors.
Yes,
You've gone to Saudi Arabia as a domestic worker.
Yes,
Tell us about that.
I went to Saudi the year 2019 and came back 2021, and which the experience wasn't that good. Upon arrival, my passport was taken away, and when I arrived in my employee's house, immediately I started working. The mistreatment started immediately. So after a while, I tried to seek help here in Kenya, to my agency here in Kenya, but they did not respond. It was a false promises, and I tried my best, but I couldn't. So I found myself. I came back with a scar. I can say I came back with a scar, but my scar, I use it as to create awareness out there what I went through, so that any other girl or innocent lady as if fall in the same thing that I fall in. Yes, I was banned, I was raped. I can't even count how many times I was raped in Saudi. Right now, I can talk about it without crying because I've went through counseling. So it's not what people think. It's out there.
Yeah.
Yes. It's
sorry
really
about
it's
what
really
you
bad.
went through.
Okay.
But to you, Stephanie, do they have rights when they go there? I mean, as domestic workers, and also, don't they have contracts that they sign, and don't these contracts sort of like protect them in a way?
Thank you for that question, but just allow me to backtrack a bit. It starts with recruitment. The target clientele for the recruitment of domestic workers in Saudi Arabia, people who have been exposed to extreme situation of vulnerability, particularly economic vulnerability, many of whom we've had a chance to engage with are single parents, they're widows, they're people who have children that they need to support, need to supplement their income. Economic times are difficult right now. And people, and you know, there's an aspect of unpaid care that comes into play, where we have, you know, someone is thinking, I work, I clean, I cook, I wash the house, I wash utensils, I do laundry, I'm not paid for it, but I have an opportunity to go do that for someone else and get paid 20,000, 30,000. That's money that I would not come across in the entire month, but I can get that money. So it becomes, again, you know, recruitment on the basis of vulnerability. And you look at people who are being recruited, many of them have very low literacy level skills, right? That becomes another factor. So even as we get to discuss contracts, we have to remember who our clientele are. These are people who have been recruited on the basis of vulnerability. People who have been exploited either by their socioeconomic circumstances, psychologically, and have had very difficult childhoods, right, for them to be able to get to the cut-off age of 21 for the recruitment to be able to work in Saudi Arabia as a domestic worker. So when it comes to contracts, we have a bilateral labor agreement that was signed in 2017, which is being reviewed. And this bilateral labor agreement is between Kenya and Saudi Arabia, particularly for domestic workers. It outlines different conditions and bare minimum safeguarding practices. But we are almost 7 years later. It's a time we review it, because that is what sets the, you know, it sets the ground for how people are treated, migrant workers are treated in Saudi Arabia. And we look at, for instance, the contracts that they receive. So they go with two sets of contracts. We have a form of foreign contract of service, which is a statutory document envisioned by the Employment Act, Section 83. And they also go with contracts issued by Musaned. Musaned is a platform from Saudi Arabia. So you have been exploited in Saudi Arabia. You have a Kenyan contract, you have a Saudi contract, which, you know, some of the terms are not necessarily at par. And that is where we are coming into play. Where do you get justice? You've come back to Kenya. Are you going to go and institute a matter against your Saudi employer in Saudi Arabia? Do you even have the mechanisms to access justice on that end? And in Kenya, who are you looking, you know, are you going to institute a claim against your employer here? Because many times this exploitation is right from the recruitment stage. Exploitation at the recruitment. Many people, you know, get into Saudi Arabia because there are no commission fees. that are attached to recruitment to Saudi Arabia. People, you just go with your ID, parents' ID copies. If you have a birth certificate, well and good. If you don't, you'll have it processed. From there, you get on to the next place, and they process your passport for you, and they cater to all the costs. Go for medical checkups, attend training, they cater to all the costs. But while you have, yes, the contract, the bilateral labor agreement is the bane of this conversation. But again, it's closed-door meetings. The returnees themselves are not involved in these conversations of the bilateral labor agreement. They're the ones who have the lived experience of what it means to be in Saudi Arabia. Everyone is living with a 90-day travel visa, and you're going to work for 2 years. What happens for the rest of the time that you will be there? Even
so
if
you go with just a 90 days visa, but you have a contract that is a 2-year contract.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, the reason I heard someone say is that the reason why they are giving us 90 days visa is because when we arrive there, after 3 months, they're supposed to give you an ikama. That's a permit. An ikama, it's like an ID that allow you to stay there. It shows that you are attached to your employee. Yeah, so it shows that you are supposed to be there for 2 years. After 2 years, that ikama will expire and you have to come back.
If not, that what happens? Is that what happened when you got there? Okay,
most of us, we don't know. If you can ask even the people who are in deportation center, you can ask them if do you have ikama. Some of them they will tell you no, I don't have. Some of them they don't know about ikama. So everything it's done in a different way. Everything is done in a hidden way, so you don't know exactly where you belong when you are in other side. And the same way that if you don't have that ikama, if you are run away, you can't go to hospital, you can't go to anywhere without that ikama. You are criminal, you are illegal in that country. So it makes your life like you are in prison. You can't even move without that thing. You keep on hiding from police and so many things can happen to you when you don't have that thing. You can access any medication, any health.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then earlier on you had mentioned that they take your passport, like the employer takes your passport. Immediately. Is it even legal?
No, not at all.
It's not. Even in contract, it's written that I'm supposed to be with all my documents together with me. But when you arrive there, you find that's another thing. Immediately when you arrive there, you've been asked, give us your passport. You give away your passport, and you can see we are very innocent. We don't know about this thing. When you find us in that plane, you will find that everybody is holding her envelope. We don't know if you are supposed to put inside the bag. You're just holding it. When you arrive there, you can't hide it. They just pick it out from your hands. So I don't think they are doing the right way. And the only thing that we need to do as migrant returnee, we need to come back. We need to come back together. Who came back here in Kenya, we need to come back together and talk about this and make awareness and educate others. We don't have to every time to blame the government. The government is not doing this, and yet we are here. Who can tell the government, or who can tell the others what they're supposed to do? Even government, maybe they don't know. If we don't talk about it, how the government will know about it. So we need to come out and start creating awareness, strongly coming together, so that even the government can recognize us that we are here, not like we are all behind everything.
Yeah.
Yes.
And before I get back to you, Stephanie, maybe still on you, like, as you mentioned, there's the migrant returnees. Do we have positive stories? Because I don't think they're just the negative ones. Do we have positive stories that you know of people you went with and they have a different story from yours?
I can assure you, out of 100, only 20% it's successful story, but all 80%. It's sad stories, so there's a problem.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so Stephanie, we know that our president has made trips to the Middle East and has actually pointed out that there are jobs. There are multiple jobs for Kenyans in the Middle East. Maybe what are you doing to work together with the government in order to ensure that even as we send our people there, they're in safe hands?
Thank you. And one of the things that I started by saying is, with this evidence that we're collecting, we're looking at the key gaps that need to be addressed. So while having these opportunities for Kenyans to work abroad is excellent, we need to ensure that these gaps are addressed. So having meetings with strategic players, duty bearers, and ensuring that the right holders themselves are in those meetings is one of the key strategies that we intend to implement. That if it's the issue of visas, that, you know, they're traveling on 90-day travel visas and they get ikamas, which they do not get thereafter, ensure that the immigration are part of this, ensure that the migrant returnees themselves are, you know, properly capacity built to be able to sit and advocate for their rights and lobby for their rights, put together their thoughts and appropriately channel that out. And, you know, sometimes when we talk of government engagement, you know, you can't just say the government in general. You need to be able to identify who are the target duty bearers that you want to involve. If it's maybe awareness at the airport to various migrant workers as they depart, how are we going to engage KAA? How are we going to bring them on board for them to know what their role is? If, you know, contracts are being handed out at the check-in, right at the door, what is their role in that space? How do they protect migrant workers at that space? If maybe the issue is on the bilateral labor agreement, how do we engage with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection to ensure that the migrant returnee workers and the migrant workers themselves are part of these conversations, because they're the ones who inform what policy reforms and changes need to be made. There are currently over 17 bilateral labor agreements that are being reviewed, or rather that are in the process of being negotiated. What is the public participation in that? Is it something, you know, to talk of about 3,000, 5,000 Kenyans departing every week, we can't say one person is going to sufficiently represent them. What are the spaces? Can we escalate this conversation down to the baraza level? Ensure that even chiefs at the location understand what this conversation is, understand what recruitment is, because recruitment is happening at the village level. Ensure that the chiefs are aware. If you see that 20 ladies from your location have left, or from one village have left, you are asking questions. Where have they gone? What is their paperwork? What is their documentation? Is the family aware of how they have gone or where they have gone to? Financial institutions also are part of this, because if you do not live with a bank, you know, an ATM card from here, how are you even going to transact? What's the capacity to transact? Because that's another challenge that they really face, because you're paid in cash. Remember, you don't leave the house. You're paid in cash. This money needs to support the family back home. You don't have a bank account in Saudi Arabia, and if you do, how are you going to transact home? Maybe the people that you need to send to at home don't have that bank account. They won't understand that you've done an RTGS or a SWIFT. So what do? They send via Western Union. So you sent your entire salary. You come home, you found all of it has been spent, which are cases that we've had. So how do financial institutions come up into this conversation? What kind of conversations are we having with them, for them to know that they also have a role to play in terms of protecting the rights of migrant domestic workers and migrant workers in general?
Yeah, according to statistics, around 185 domestic workers died in Saudi Arabia between the year 2020 and November 2022. Do the families ever get justice? Like, do the victims get justice?
I'll first answer that, and then I can hand it over to Faith. You know, the pain that it takes to repatriate the remains of a loved one from Saudi Arabia is already a problem in and of itself. Right now I'm dealing with a case of a person whose sister passed on in Saudi Arabia in August 2022. We're in April. The body is yet to be repatriated. Getting the body back is already such a relief that thinking of opening up those scars to start pursuing justice is almost unfathomable for many of these people, many of them. But there are those who, when they go to view the body that has come, there are organs that are missing, postmortems are not conducted. So they just take what the death report has been issued on that end, and they, you know, it's translated and they take it as gospel truth. There's a lot of, you know, I haven't seen a case where anybody has gone to file against a perpetrator for the death. And again, you look at justice. Justice is so broad. Justice starts from the family has been informed, let their body be brought back quickly. People are being asked for 400,000, 700,000 to repatriate remains. Yet, in the Foreign Contract of Service, there's actually a clause on death and who is supposed to repatriate the remains of a loved one. But that's not happening. That in and of itself is justice. Looking at somebody who probably was killed or died under unclear circumstances. You know, you ask them and you ask some of these families and they tell you, naenda wapi? Nongea na nani? Aliuliwa Saudi, sijui ni nani. I don't even know who the employer is. Na sijui alikufia wapi? Alizikwa in the desert. So you begin to wonder, how do we help such a person get justice? They have dependents. But there's somebody somewhere who had a responsibility and a duty of care established as per the law, who's not playing their part, who needs to be called to account. And I'll just hand over to Faith because she's had an opportunity to
Now, unfortunately,
repatriate
we'll just
people.
have to end this conversation, unfortunately. But my director has just promised me that we'll continue with the conversation next week, same time, on Wednesday. We'll continue with this conversation so that we get to get into it, you know, much deeper and get to understand the situation and where we are going wrong and what needs to be done in order for us not to experience, you know, people being mistreated, harassed, and some coming back dead. You know, so thank you so much for joining me for this particular conversation. Looking forward to see you next week.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
All right, we have to wrap up Good Morning Kenya for now. Right about now, we are going to be getting straight to the Senate proceedings. My name is Vivian Degwa. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing.
On KBC Channel 1, we are a TV station like no other. Get a taste of the best in entertainment.
Yes, indeed.
Feel the passion.
Will you promise me?
I swear that you will never lose me. I can't get married to you.
I'm sure you knew about it. That's why you're making fun of me.
Experience the drama.
Get out.
Who's the man in this one?
And the laughter.
Hii wigi umevaa kichwani. Sisi wakati tulikuwa tunaapishwa tukapewa mheshimiwa.
Move to the beat.
We are live from Broadcasting House.
And get informed on the latest happenings. KBC Channel 1.
Wow. Yeah!
We are the full package.
Oh, yes.
And Kenya's watching.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Una maana kwamba alipoumia kwa kampuni yako hukujua ameumia?
Angekuja waniripotie. Ulikuja kuniambia?
Niliumia, yeye ndiye alisema alitisha ambulance nikapeleka hospitali.
Huyu.
Nani?
Wewe unasikia vile anaongea?
Bismillahi, mbona wewe danganyi? Mbona mimi amwambia wewe maneno ya bana yangu? Waacha mrongo yako bana.
So, you are nothing, si ndio? Yes, you are nothing. he called the Kuls and come and singira us.
Ni sawa mzee, nishasikia nishaelewa.
So then the Kuls wanted to kill us.
Nimesikia. Wewe.
Are we together mpaka fair?
And we are making pan-fried chicken, paprika potatoes, and which we have deep-fried, and Mudhoni is now adding our seasoning. Mudhoni, what's in the seasoning?
The seasoning is just paprika, a bit of salt, and a bit of black pepper.
In today's show, we have Mudhoni Kirunyu of Kirunyu's Kitchen.
So you just add it and then mix together so that they can coat nicely. Yeah.
And that's it?
That's it.
Okay. And our mango salad, which had mango, onions and cucumber.
Yes.
And now we are ready to serve. So we'll see you back here as we are ready to eat.
on the 24th of April, the year being 2024. A broadcast brought to you courtesy of the collaboration between the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation and the parliamentary broadcasting units. In the highlights in the order paper this morning, we have a couple of motions as set for